Welcome back to Financial Foundations, brought to you by Base Wealth Management, where we are the foundation to your financial plan. I'm your host, Dustin Taylor.
And I'm your co-host, Kyle Howell, financial advisor in the Lutz office of Base Wealth Management.
Today, we have Anissa Morris joining us from Spinner Law, and she is here to talk about personal injury and how that relates to wealth management.
Thank you, Dustin. I'm excited to be here.
Can you start by telling our listeners about your role at Spinner Law?
Spinner Law Firm is a small personal injury law practice, and I am one of the attorneys there. So I handle cases on behalf of people who've been injured in auto crashes, slip and falls, anything like that, where someone else's negligence has caused them to be injured.
Spinner Law has built a reputation in the Tampa, Ruskin, Lakewood Ranch area. How does Spinner Law's company values kind of mirror or complement Base Wealth's fiduciary responsibility?
Well, as I understand it, base wealth management's approach is more of a holistic approach. They take the whole view and look at the end goal and when they're counseling their clients and customers. And we do the very same thing at Spinner Law Firm. We take a holistic approach, look at what the injuries are to our client, what would be the best for them as far as medical treatment and pursuing a case to that end. We're not focused totally on the dollars. We're there for the person, and we want them to get better and have a good result with that respect moving forward for longevity and ongoing health.
So, Anissa, what sets you apart as far as Spinner Law Firm compared to other law firms in the state? And then how do you protect the long-term financial security of the clients that you win cases for?
That's a very good question, Kyle. As you know, when you drive down I-75, you see billboards everywhere. There are thousands of personal injury law firms in our state. And we differentiate ourselves from them by being very client focused. Our lawyers are accessible to the clients. If they call and want to talk to the lawyer, they're able to do that. And a lot of the bigger firms, if people call, they're talking to case managers and they never have an opportunity to talk to the attorney, or at least not until they get to the very end of a case when you're getting ready for trial. We have a very good system with keeping up with our clients and knowing what's happening and touching base with them on a regular basis so that we're able to walk them through every step of the way. We educate our clients on every step so they know what to expect. They're never going to be too fearful after they've talked with us about what is happening in the process. We feel that more communication is better. Bad news is better than no news. So we will always call and reach out. Now, for your second question, how do we protect their financial interests? When we get a settlement, we partner up with people like you at Base Wealth Management so they can invest that money and be sure that it's there long term for their health needs as they move forward. And we also affiliate ourselves with estate planning attorneys who are able to help them put systems in place or a plan in place that would protect that money moving forward.
Yeah, it sounds very similar, to obviously what we do at Base Wealth. Constant communication, education, and making sure that we're all on the same page.
Right. We try to remind ourselves that even though we've been doing this over and over again, this is the client's first experience with an auto injury or a slip and fall injury, and they don't know. So we're
Right.
very sensitive to that.
Great.
Base Wealth Management, obviously, as you mentioned earlier, takes into account a holistic approach to things. And how that relates to personal injury, I think in a couple of different ways. One, you could get, I guess, kind of a windfall from winning a case, right? And then the other would be to expect the unexpected. How do you plan for these types of things? Or if something happens, will you be covered? Like what are the risks and stuff like that? With that in mind, I want to talk about like distracted driving accidents and how those can lead to medical bills piling up, low wages, and things like that. So, how can these types of things, whenever a personal injury happens, affect a broader financial plan? And maybe, Kyle, you can chime in on this as well.
What do they say? Life is what happens when you plan other things. Like things just occur. And one of them, especially in Florida, are car crashes. And there are a lot of people out there driving, not paying attention. They're eating, they're drinking, they're talking on their phones, and they are causing car crashes. And you need to expect that and anticipate it. And it's a good idea to work with your financial advisors and know that you have an emergency fund set aside. Know that you have reserves in the event that you are injured in a crash and you're not able to get to work right away. I mean, let's face it, the court system is backlogged and it takes a long time to get cases to the final resolution where people are getting settlement money and they're able to move forward. So it's a good idea to have those reserves in place so that you can move forward.
And I would say one of the things that I always recommend to clients is making sure that they have enough insurance, vehicle coverage. I personally have max coverage and an umbrella policy. If I were to get in an accident and hurt somebody really bad, I know my insurance is going to cover to where I'm not necessarily having to come out of pocket.
That's a very great point. Oftentimes people will get the minimum coverage for themselves, or they'll not get any underinsured motorist coverage at all. And that means that if someone hits you and they have no coverage or very little, there's no other insurance for you to pursue on to protect yourself. So that's a very good point, Kyle.
Right.
People need to do that and educate themselves on those policies out there. Another one is with property damage. Oftentimes, and it may be against a base wealth management's education, but some people go out and a lot of people will buy cars and they'll get loans to purchase the car. And oftentimes they don't know that there is such a thing as gap insurance that would pay for the damage to the car, pay off that loan if you have your car totaled. And so sometimes there are people out there who owe a loan on a car. The car's totaled, it's gone, but they still owe that loan. And it's really, really sad. And
And the loan is more than what the car is worth.
exactly.
And that's where that gap coverage comes in.
Exactly. And so it's really sad when that situation occurs.
You kind of briefly mentioned the cash reserves. Base wealth management works with clients to build like emergency cash reserves, as you said. Legally, how does Spinner law raise awareness about these distracted driving issues? And how could financial advisors also help in that regard?
We are very involved in the community and have taken a grassroots approach. So we spend a lot of time with the high schools and talking with those teenage drivers about the dangers of distracted driving. We have partnered up with a lot of the SAD organizations, the Students Against Destructive Decisions. When I was a kid, it was Students Against Drunk Driving, but it's changed and it's encompassed a lot more of bad decisions. So it's a good move. We present on that, we blog on that, we do podcasts on that topic and just raise awareness in that way. Recently, we have created a pledge for the high school students to sign where they will not under oath, but they will promise to drive their car obeying the laws and not be distracted so that they don't get hurt themselves and don't hurt anyone else on the road.
I need to get one of those. I've got a 15-year-old that's about to turn 16 in a few months, so I need to probably get that for him.
I'll be saying some prayers for you. Lots more great hair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In staying on this distracted driving issue, one of your specialties in Spinner law is to guide people through these types of claims. Can you explain what the legal process looks like and how does a financial plan sort of, I guess, bridge the gap or help during this time period?
Well, when a person has been injured in a crash, the first thing they need to do is the 3 C's. They need to check for injuries, collect evidence, and call a Spinner law firm to help them out. But beyond that, once you do call us, what we do is ask for information about the crash. We gather evidence to support our claim that the other person caused the crash, and then we help facilitate the case through medical treatment and getting records to gather evidence to prove that the crash itself caused the injuries to our client. And through that process, that doesn't involve the court system at that point in time. That is a pre-suit situation. So you're dealing with insurance agents and adjusters and negotiating a claim. If after you go through that process and the offers that they are making to settle the case really are not commensurate with what the damages are, then we talk about what the next options are, which is usually to file a lawsuit against the at-fault driver. And that initiates the process through the court system. So you'll file a complaint. The defendant will be served by a process server with a summons and a copy of the complaint. And then you engage in discovery and go through mediation. And ultimately, you may end up having a jury trial to have a jury of your peers determine who was at fault for causing the crash and what is the value of the damages that you sustained. Oftentimes, I'd say 95% of cases, if not more, settle without having to go have a jury trial. And through that whole process, we educate our clients and again, explain what to expect and go through everything with them so they're never caught flat-footed.
There's something called the 100 Deadliest Days for teen drivers. Could you kind of talk about that a little bit? And then, Kyle, could you talk about what risks parents should be aware of during this time, and how like a financial plan could help protect the family, I suppose?
So the 100 Deadliest Days for Teen Drivers starts on May 26th this year, which is actually my birthday. And it's a Memorial Day and it goes through Labor Day. So that's 100 days. And statistics have shown that there is a increase in fatal crashes involving teen drivers during that time. I think to prevent that or educate your children about that, you need to be sure that they know the rules of the road, that they comply with them. It's important, I believe, to take advantage of that full year where they have their learner's permit from age 15 to age 16 and get them out driving as much as possible with you in the car. Utilize those tools where you're able to monitor what their speeds are, because most of the time the traffic infractions that teens commit are speeding and then followed by careless driving. And that increased speed, you're not able to react, cars get out of control, and crashes happen. So you want to be sure that they're aware of that. The distracted driving, we all do it. We're all guilty of it, but you need to talk with them and be sure that they're aware that driving distracted is just as bad as driving under the influence of alcohol. It causes just as many crashes, and your reaction time is not the same. With respect to financial things, Kyle, one thing that people need to realize is that if your teen driver is driving a car that you own and they go have a crash and they injure someone else, that injured person can sue your child as the driver, but they also can sue you as the owner of the vehicle under the dangerous instrumentality law that we have here in Florida. So one way to maybe separate that is to have separate insurance policies for the young kids, and if you're in a position maybe where you could have the child own the car separate from you owning it, that might help insulate you.
So in this, at Base Wealth Management, we pride ourselves on high net worth individuals and families and helping them, protect their assets. From your experience with wrongful death and serious injury cases, what legal tools do you have that are maybe underutilized in comprehensive wealth protection?
We find most often, Kyle, that people out there driving around who become our clients will purchase car insurance to help someone that they've potentially injured in a car crash, but they never think about educating themselves on the insurance that may be available to protect themselves. They often will decline underinsured motorist coverage or uninsured motorist coverage, which is very essential, especially if they've been hit by someone who doesn't have any insurance at all. So on the defensive end, to protect yourself and your financial security, I think that that's the biggest thing, is people are not properly insuring themselves. To protect their own assets if they happen to go out and hurt someone else, it's good to keep in mind that in Florida, our homes are, if it's your homestead property, it is protected by our state constitution from creditors. So people don't need to be worried about people coming and taking your house away if they sued you for injuries from a car crash. And with situations where you'd be able to help clients, most retirement accounts are protected from creditors as well. So if they have their investments in the proper accounts, for the most part, those should be protected if they've hurt someone else in a car crash.
So with just kind of piggybacking on that, and I know you guys don't get a whole lot into estate planning, but just for instance, somebody has a $1 million trust account. Is that something, if they were to get into an accident, that somebody could come after?
It depends on how the money in that trust account is invested, as well as what type of a trust it is. If it is a revocable living trust where the grantor or the person who's created the trust is in control of that money, they're also the trustee, and it's their money, then that would be available to creditors, again, depending upon how that money is invested. If the grantor is not the one who caused the crash and is separate and apart from that person, then that would be a protected trust.
And would you say that's kind of a common misconception when it comes to estate planning?
Totally. Everyone thinks they need a trust to protect themselves, and they all want to talk about revocable trust. And those do not protect the person who's creating the trust from any creditors. It will protect your beneficiaries once that money trickles down to them, but it does not protect the person who created the trust.
We've talked a lot about protecting the assets that you have, but what happens when a distracted driving incident occurs and someone gets paid out a settlement, how do you coordinate with a financial planner or advisor to make sure that the settlement is tax efficient and optimized?
That's a great question. Personal injury settlements in Florida and most places are not taxable for income purposes. So the minute that you get that money, you don't have to pay any income taxes on it. However, once you invest it and start earning interest and things like that, interest is taxable income to you. And at that point in time, it's important to talk with your financial advisor and be sure that you put those monies in appropriate places where you might be able to shield some of that or restrict some of the growth or different tricks that you all at Base Wealth Management know to do to help people grow that investment. Sometimes people, you were asking about having cash reserves if you lose your wages.
Mhm.
If you receive damages for lost wages, that portion of your settlement is taxable as income to you because it's not replacing any of your health or not paying you for injuries that you sustained.
Kyle, is the personal injury settlement different from other types of windfalls?
Similar to life insurance, life insurance is also tax free. But as far as, other settlements, there are going to be other settlements that will be taxable to you. So we got to be, extremely careful as, what type of investments we're going into once they receive those windfalls.
So it's important if you come into any type of money and any windfall to talk to your advisor or accountant or both.
So we have our own systems in place as far as how we communicate with our clients and maintaining relationships. We send out weekly emails, quarterly newsletters, periodic phone calls throughout the year. What does Spinner Law Firm do in regards to communication with clients?
For active clients, we have a case management software which tickles us to contact them every 2 weeks. One time it'll be the attorney reaching out, another time it'll be the case manager, and we alternate that, and it's documented so that we know that we're actually doing it. If there is any new information that comes in on a case, that also prompts us to reach out and let them know what's happening. So oftentimes it's a phone call, and if we can't reach them over the phone, we have a text system where each client has a unique telephone text number that we're able to text them and they can reply and it gets into our case file so everyone can see what's been happening.
So, Anissa, we obviously help, a lot of individuals and families, building emergency funds, building savings for the future for specific reasons like this that may or may not ever happen, right? We don't know when we're going to get in a car accident or if we'll ever get in a car accident, get hurt somebody else. What types of trends are you seeing in this day and age, especially being in Florida with a lot of movement to Florida from out of state?
We are seeing a lot of people who are driving around with not a lot of bodily injury or liability coverage, which means that when people are injured, there's not any insurance money really available to them to pay for those injuries unless they have purchased uninsured motorist coverage or underinsured motorist coverage. And oftentimes people don't do that. So that's a big trend. Also, back in March of 2023, there was a big tort reform law that went through here in Florida. Part of that law shortened the statute of limitations to file a lawsuit on personal injury cases from 4 years to 2 years. So we need to move a little bit more quickly with these cases. But in addition to that change in the law, they also changed the comparative fault part of our law, which means that if now the new law is that if anyone had personal responsibility in causing the crash or causing their injuries, if that percentage is 51% or higher, they are not entitled to any type of damage at all. Before, it didn't matter. You always would be entitled to damages for the percentage of fault that the other person had towards causing your injuries. With that 51% being there, oftentimes people may have not worn a seatbelt or they may have somehow contributed to the accident occurring. They will no longer be entitled to any damages whatsoever, which creates a bigger financial burden on them, which would bring you in and helping them out with preparing in advance for that situation occurring and having their reserve set aside and being properly funded.
Yeah, and again, going back to the insurance and making sure you have proper insurance, not only for people that you may hit, but also proper coverage if you get hit and you're hurt.
Exactly.
And making sure that you have, the reserves in place with you have to go through a situation like this.
Exactly.
So, Anissa, all of this has been incredibly insightful. What is one thing that you would encourage any Base Wealth listener to do right now, whether that's meet with their financial advisor to model out the risk of having a teenage driver or, signing a distracted driving pledge? What do you think?
As we've talked about several times today, I would urge people to evaluate what insurance coverages they have. And if it's not enough, to take steps to purchase that coverage and then work with their financial advisor to be sure that they have the reserve set aside in case something happens. You don't want to be caught flat footed. You want to be able to take care of yourself, relax, have peace of mind, and focus on getting better and not be worried about paying bills.
So, as you can see, there are not only obvious risks to retirement, but there are things like personal injury and distracted driving and things like that that can also upset your finances. So, it's important to stay on top of that. Make sure you build up your cash reserves and stay informed. You can do that by visiting basewealthmanagement.com, listening to our podcast, checking out the rest of our videos, and reading our articles. Anissa, it was great to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. It was great to be here. I enjoyed my time.
If anyone wants to reach out to you for anything, whether they need advice or thoughts, or they want to sign that distracted driving pledge, where can they reach you?
They could reach me at Spinner Law Firm, 813-991-5099.
So be sure to follow us on all your favorite social media platforms. And if you have any questions, send them to question@basewealthmanagement.com.
I'm Dustin Taylor.
And I'm Kyle Howell.
Happy listening.